Greetings and welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring all of the tools and resources that you'll need to help you along your journey. This podcast is divided into 3 sections. The first is a daily reading. The second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad you've joined us today on this journey of self-expansion and growth. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe this podcast wherever you're listening, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your help here really makes a huge difference in allowing us to spread the word and build a more supportive community as we continue with our self-reparenting. Now, before we get started, I have some quick updates for you. First, I'd like to introduce our Patreon community. Here, for a small monthly fee, you can join us for 3 weekly meetings for additional support with your reparenting journey. On Sundays, we have a meditation group. On Tuesdays, we have a book club discussion. And on Thursdays, we have open topic conversations. You can find out more details about this if you go to the Reparenting Daily website and check out on the community tab. In addition to that, we also have a WhatsApp group to foster more daily connection and support for whenever you need it. And this is a community of fellow travelers from around the world who will always be there when help is needed. It's just one of the many ways that we're building our network of resources that are really going to help support your reparenting journey. For the next update, I'm very excited to announce that I've just released some first books. The first is probably the most important, and it's called the Reparenting Daily Journal. Now, this journal is a daily guide for 365 days of the year. We'll be starting in 2025, and basically each month corresponds to a theme in reparenting, and each week of each month corresponds to a sub-theme of the monthly theme. Now, from the beginning of the year, 2025, each daily episode will correspond with the themes in the daily workbooks. And so you can use this as a guide to work through your reparenting journey to stay focused, ensuring that you cover all of the most critical areas within a year's time. And again, this will be aligning up with the podcast, so you can use both of these to make a more engaging and interactive experience. This is ensuring that you really book progress on your reparenting journey. The next set of books I've written is called Fairy Tales for Reparenting. This is a collection of 3 books that contain short stories or fairy tales inspired from Jungian analysis, mythology, philosophy, and psychology that really is targeted to helping you connect to your inner child. And so these stories are very short. They're not very long. They're written in a very simple manner so that it's not too taxing on you, so you can more easily connect with the joy and fun of your inner child. More interestingly, however, is that at the end of each story, there's an analysis section that really analyzes the main themes and concepts within each story to provide encouragement and inspiration. Additionally, you will find corresponding journal prompts after each story and each analysis section to help you reflect deeper on how the themes of each fairy tale can be reflected and correspond to your own personal journey as you work towards self-expansion. You can find all of these books now available on Amazon, so go ahead and give us a look and give us some support. And as I've mentioned before, this entire process of reparenting and self-expansion is really about growth, iterative change, and continuous improvement. Much like the process of nurturing the bonsai tree, our reparenting journey requires our consistency and care. So many thanks for being here and for supporting this project, and also to committing on your journey of self-expansion. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's practice. Today's reading is from Psychology Today. It's an article entitled Self-Trust and How to Build It. Standing Up to the Inner Critic. As a reminder, we're in March, the 1st of March, and the theme for this month is Building Self-Trust and Self-Confidence. We're in week 1, which is March 1st until the 7th. And the theme of this week is understanding the foundations of self-trust. Self-trust and how to build it. Stand up to the inner critic. Self-trust is not trusting yourself to know all the answers, nor is it believing that you will always do the right things. It's having the conviction that you will be kind and respectful to yourself regardless of the outcome of your efforts. Self-trust is the firm reliance on the integrity of yourself. There is a difference between a life that is grounded in secure self-trust and one that is not. When we look at examples of people who are self-trusting, we find that they have clarity and confidence in their choices. They are independent, which includes healthy independence, not overly dependent or hyper-independent. They speak with authority that comes from a deep place within, but is not arrogance. They are good observers and have cultivated the ability to learn from their experiences, both success and failure. Because they can trust themselves not to be punitive when they make a mistake, they can look openly at their experience without fear or self-punishment. If my agenda is to protect myself from external or internal recrimination, I am not going to be able to examine my experience because my primary attention is not to learn, but to protect myself. Regret undermines self-trust. The word recrimination has the word crime within it. Many people live with a lot of regret. Some people have the misguided notion that you should not have regrets. That belief causes them to have more regrets. It's human to have regrets. Only a psychopath or a person who is incapable of learning anything new will have no regrets. Regret itself is not the problem. What keeps us stuck in regret is the resistance to feeling the full depth of it. It's overwhelming when we don't have the inner resources to hold the magnitude of remorse. There are plenty of other means to learn from regret and to forgive ourselves. The bigger the regret, the deeper the shame, and the bigger the opportunity. Just like being compassionate and forgiving for another person who may have harmed us, we can focus that same attitude towards ourselves. We demonstrate that we have learned from the mistake. Regret evaporates. Then self-forgiveness and self-trust automatically occur. We are producing evidence that reflects the integration of what we learned. Avoiding the inner critic undermines self-trust. People who have learned to relate to their inner critical voice in a productive way will argue with it or comply with its indictments. When we buy into the negative voices, we diminish our self-trust. Trying to escape the inner critic by ignoring it, by drinking or drugging or other distractions, will only empower it. The way to build self-trust is to relate to the inner critic and show it that it's taking a seed of truth and blowing it out of proportion. There are ways to get to know the inner critic just by being curious about its nature. What is the inner critic? Where does it come from? What is its intentions? What does it want from us? What is its agenda? What is its job? Is it educable? Is there any other way than adversarial to relate to it? How do we stand up to the inner critic? When we listen to the inner critic, relate to it, and educate it, we stand up to it. A powerful shift in our relationship with the inner critic is indeed possible. Thank you, and that's the reading for today. Please check out the entire article in the show notes. As always, I have only read a portion. Welcome back. Now, reparenting is a process of giving yourself the care, guidance, and emotional safety that may have been missing in childhood, and self-trust is at the core of this healing. Without self-trust, we remain stuck in patterns of self-doubt, fear, and dependence on external validation. This reading highlights how developing self-trust requires us to relate to ourselves with kindness rather than punishment. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, reparenting allows us to embrace them as learning opportunities, fostering self compassion and resilience. By understanding that regret is not a flaw but a chance for growth, we shift from self criticism to self acceptance. The ability to hold space for our experiences without fear of self recrimination is essential for reparenting. It helps us build inner safety, confidence, and emotional stability. A crucial aspect of reparenting is learning to navigate our inner critic without letting it undermine us. Many people with a wounded inner child struggle with a harsh inner voice, but fighting or ignoring it only strengthens its grip. Instead, the reading encourages us to understand and educate the inner critic rather than blindly obeying or suppressing it. This shift in approach is transformative. When we relate to our inner critic with curiosity instead of fear, we reclaim our inner authority. Reparenting is about becoming our own safe, loving guide, and this requires the ability to trust ourselves, to make choices, to learn from them, and to move forward without self-punishment. Developing self-trust through reparenting leads to self-expansion, allowing us to step into our full potential with confidence and inner security. As we move on to the journal prompts today, number 1, what is one past mistake or regret that I still judge myself for? How can I shift my perspective to see it as a learning opportunity? Number 2, how does my inner critic speak to me? And what might it be trying to protect me from? How can I respond to it with understanding instead of fear? And number 3, what are 3 ways I can show myself kindness and self-trust on a daily basis, even in small moments? That's it for today. As always, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself, and please do be well. Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for this 10-minute silent meditation. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you are taking some time to be with your breath to connect with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing as if they are drifting down a river. Use this time to connect with yourself. Whatever time of day you are listening to this, Namaste.